Let's welcome Kellyanne Conway, Fox News contributor, former senior counselor to President Trump, in Focus. Good to see you. Well, you know what? I kind of want to start with where Ayanna Pressley was, accusing Republicans of playing with people's lives and saying that Democrats are simply saving people's lives. What is she talking about there?
It won't work, Harris, because part of the mandate that the Republican majority in the House received from the voters a few months ago is to get to the bottom of the Biden family business dealings. I want to make very clear what the investigations are not about. We don't need to see more photos of Hunter Biden with the hookers and private parts and in the bathtub. No, we need to know what he was doing in China and Russia while his father was vice president and or while his father was preparing to become the president. China, as now Speaker McCarthy said a few months ago, Harris, is the greatest geopolitical threat to this country, our economy and our security, certainly. Where do you think the fentanyl is being produced by and large? What about the virus? What about the Uyghurs? The list goes on and on. That Fox News poll, I think, is incredibly important. Also, when I dug through it, 3 of the key groups Joe Biden would need to court to win a second term are very, very low in terms of people thinking that Joe Biden did, quote, nothing seriously wrong in the Hunter Biden scandals. 27% of independents, 28% of Hispanics, and 33% of suburban women only think that he's done, quote, nothing wrong. And then also, you said bipartisan support. I'm going to throw in there's tripartisan support for these investigations. The vast majority of independents, 3 out of 4 independents, also say, please investigate this. I think that's incredibly important. And last thing about this, the DHS Disinformation Board, as you'll recall, it was disbanded last April under a cloud of a lot of controversy. But the disinformation at DHS is coming right from the top. You can't look the country in the eye and say the border is secure while we watch 4.5 million people come over it, and you have the president doing a drive-by after they've cleared out all the migrants for his viewing pleasure. So Americans want transparency and accountability, and they're going to get that from this House.
You know, and what Governor Abbott just told the world a few minutes ago was that part of what he's done with those containers and controlling the border also gave the president part of that photo op. I mean, he didn't clean up the streets. That Democratic mayor had that done. But isn't that interesting? That what Abbott is wanting to do at the border is actually working to the point where the president could look behind him and say, wow.
And the president missed an opportunity, Harris, to say, this looks like a bipartisan solution that's actually working. It's nibbling around the edges, but let's invest a little bit more in that. And he missed that opportunity. And look, the other thing that's going on in these investigations, people should know, is that there's been an expansion of the ability of Congress to look into the criminal investigations that are active right now, Harris, and also how our government collects and analyzes information about we the people. Who would be against that? And I would say to Congresswoman Pressley and others, why would you ever be against us knowing how the government is rifling through our private information? We have a right to know.
You know what? I do want to get to that because a new Wall Street Journal op-ed with this today is speaking to the very issue that you're talking about, you know, digging information on us. The White House COVID censorship machine, it says, quote, the White House has played a major role in censoring Americans on social media. Americans were given the false impression of a scientific consensus on critically important issues around COVID-19. So that's an example of what you're saying.
Yes. And actually, just this past Friday, January 6th, I know every day on the calendar says January 6th to some people in this town, but to others, it was a big day on Friday where the attorneys general of Missouri and Louisiana have brought a lawsuit. And in the discovery phase of that lawsuit, they have revealed that the director of digital media at the White House, a guy named Flaherty, is arguing with Facebook from his government office, one would presume his White House email perhaps, or maybe on his cell phone, which itself could be unethical and illegal. Harris, he is pushing back on Facebook for not taking down COVID misinformation, vaccine misinformation, and actually invokes Fox News' Tucker Carlson thusly by saying, oh, the #1 hit about vaccines right now is Tucker Carlson. Take that down. So I think what's being revealed now, Harris, is proof and evidence of what many Americans suspect, which is that big tech is watching us at all time. We're being shadow banned and censored.
Sure.
And we know what happened. I want Jim Baker in front of Congress, the guy who was at the FBI during all that Russia collusion nonsense, and then was a deputy general counsel at Twitter. I want him before Congress. And if he has nothing to hide, Harris, we'll hear that. If you have nothing to hide, then don't fear congressional investigations.
Yeah, and the accusation against him has been that word, collusion. And so you would think that Democrats would definitely want to get to the bottom of that. Kellyanne Conway.
We're finally finding it.
So good to see you. Happy New Year to you. Thank you for being in Focus.
Thank you, Harris.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.